Quentin Kidd is like the future. He's Vice Provost and Director of the Judy Ford Wasson Center for Public Policy at Christopher Newport University. Dr. Kidd, great to have you.
Well, it's good to be with you. I think with that introduction, I'll just end it right here.
That's probably pretty good. We should probably send that to you and run a little clip of it, because I'm not a Larry Sabato fan, because he says the same thing over and over and over, and it's just not interesting, and half the time he isn't even right. So BORING, or as we say here on the John Fredericks Show, hashtag lab, standing for layman boring. Now, Dr. Kidd, you're exonerated. You're exonerated because you came out with a poll at Christopher Newport University during the middle of the Medicaid expansion debate. And your poll basically said, I don't want to go spend that much time on it, but it said Virginians are now opposed to it, right? And McAuliffe and Democrats went nuts. They attacked your methodology, blah, blah, blah. Now, you go to District 38, special election, August 19th. You had two candidates. The Republican Ben Chafin, not for expanding Medicaid. The Democrat Himes, for expanding Medicaid. District 38 in Virginia had the highest percentage of people in Virginia, percentage-wise, that would benefit from Medicaid expansion. Low-income workers would get coverage. They rejected it 2-1. I think your poll was pretty accurate.
Well, we were polling the politics of it, and I do think Republicans had won the political debate. And it's tough to hear when you're losing a debate that you really care about that you're losing it. And I think that was some of that pushback that we felt, or that we actually received. That's the life of doing polling, though. You just have to take your hits when you get them. So.
Well, in that one, you nailed it. So you were, in fact, all your polls are very accurate. Now, you've got a poll coming out today, right?
We just put it out at 6 a.m.
Oh, we just put it out. Okay. Share the details.
Well, we're showing, this is the first post-Labor Day poll of the U.S. Senate race. So we went into the field after Labor Day when people are back at school paying attention to what's going on. We're showing Mark Warner with a 53-31 lead over Ed Gillespie.
Wow.
Amongst likely voters, so this isn't just registered voters. It's voters who say that they're paying close or somewhat close attention to the race and that they are certain or almost certain to vote in the November election. So we have a two-part likely voter model that takes into consideration how much somebody's paying attention and whether they indicate that they're going to vote or not. And so, we feel pretty good about our likely voter model, and I think Warner has a pretty sizable lead over Ed Gillespie at this point.
So you've got the statewide survey of registered voters according to your poll, a CNU poll, Wasson Center for Public Policy. You've got Warner right now ahead of Gillespie 53% to 31%, with Sarvis at 5%. Right?
Yeah, and 11% undecided, and so those undecided numbers will get smaller as we go along, as we head toward Election Day. But Warner's in a good position. I think the reason that Warner's in a good position is, and we sort of tease this out a little bit in our analysis, Warner, when we look at ideology, there are two ways to look at a person's political makeup. One is to ask their partisan identification. Another one is to ask their ideological orientation, from conservative to liberal to moderate. And Mark Warner, when you cross-tab the analysis by ideology, Mark Warner has the support of 60% of ideological moderates and 19% of ideological conservatives. So he's doing really well amongst the base of voters that he cultivated when he ran for governor the first time. He hasn't lost them, in other words.
That is a pretty stunning analysis. Now, the other thing is the Republicans have been saying, well, they've been holding this hope with Gillespie, saying, well, look, at the end of the day, Warner's under 50%, under 50%, under 50%. But now you've got him at 53% and only 11% undecided. So right now, even if Gillespie got 100% of the undecideds, it still isn't even going to be close.
Yeah, Ed Gillespie's challenge, I think, is evident in our results as well. We asked one of the questions we asked was whether people had favorable or unfavorable views of the candidates, or didn't know enough to have a view either way. And 60% of likely voters don't have enough information to have a view of Ed Gillespie either way. So it's not like voters are rejecting Ed Gillespie. So, if you're in the Gillespie camp and you're trying to think, okay, what do we do in the next several weeks to Election Day? Voters haven't necessarily rejected Ed Gillespie. They don't know a lot about Ed Gillespie, but they know a lot about Mark Warner. He's a known commodity. I mean, 56% approval rating, favorable rating, not as high as you might think it would be, but he's a known commodity. Ed Gillespie isn't. So Ed Gillespie's challenge is two parts. Further introduce himself to Virginia voters, but while also trying to convince them that there's a reason that they shouldn't support Mark Warner. And I just think that's a pretty formidable challenge, but I think the pathway forward is pretty clear to Gillespie.
Well, it's a tough one because they made the centerpiece of their campaign so far. 97% of the time, Warner's voted with Obama. I've been saying since it started, I thought that was a waste of time. I didn't think it would work. It's clearly not. Don't you think to close this gap, Gillespie needs an issue to ride, something that can galvanize people? I think this strategy of, well, we're not going to say anything, say that Warner's tied to Obama, ride the wave, hope for the tidal wave, crest it. I think that's a strategy to get blown out.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that strategy is working. So I think if we were in Louisiana, if we were in Arkansas, if we were in a couple of these other states where incumbent Democratic senators are on the ropes, that might be working. What's unique about those states relative to Virginia is that those states have been trending red. Well, Virginia has been trending moderate blue in federal races. And so I'm just not convinced that in a state that's been trending the opposite direction of Arkansas and Louisiana, that the strategy of tying Mark Warner to Barack Obama is going to work. Now, if this were a massive wave election, could Gillespie ride that wave and perhaps make it work? Sure. It doesn't look like it's shaping up to be a massive wave election. And so I do think Gillespie has to find a handhold and a foothold and climb on his own and not climb on the back of sort of disenchantment about Barack Obama, because I just don't think that's going to carry him all the way across the finish line. I
agree with you 100%. What example we've been citing just as an example of an issue is the New Hampshire race, where the Democrat incumbent Senator Jean Shaheen she had a double-digit lead over Scott Brown, former senator from Massachusetts, for months, 15, 18, 16, 12, depending on what poll you take. Brown decided to abandon everything but one issue, and that was immigration and amnesty. And in 2 weeks, that's all he did, and now he's even. I don't know if he's going to win, but certainly he took an issue, and he got people that were fired up about it, and now he's trying to ride that. I don't see the Gillespie campaign going anywhere with the current strategy. I've been saying that for months. I think your poll results right now certainly plays it out. From Newport. Anyway, we prefer Dr. Quentin Kidd because he's smarter, better, faster, and he's more right. All that plus here on the John Fredericks Show. Now, your new poll, Dr. Kidd, basically says Warner 53%, Gillespie 31%, Sarvis 5%, 11% undecided. Now, last night, the Republican Party of Virginia put a statement out. Let me read it. If past practice is any guide, we're going to get a poll from the U.S. Senate race tomorrow from Christopher Newport University. And the results of that poll will be based on the sample data released for today's poll. The partisan breakdown of that sample is interesting. They say 35D, 26R, 35 independent, or D plus 9. Then it goes on to say, obviously we don't know what's going to be in the poll, but I would point out that the breakdown for Virginia in 2012 was D plus 7, and I don't think there's anyone in Virginia predicting that Democrats are as energized and ready to vote as they were in 2012. Your response to that critique?
Well, we don't weight by party ID. When we do a poll, we draw a random sample of registered voters. We randomly talk to them, and then when it comes to the horse race portion of our analysis, we ask a couple of questions about intensity. How close are people paying attention? How likely are people to vote? And then we get rid of those who say they aren't paying attention or they're not likely to vote. And so our likely voter model is based upon intensity. And so that's all. That's it. We don't wait on party ID. I know what a lot of internal polls for political parties do is they wait on party ID because they have a goal partisan turnout. And so they wait on their goal, and we just don't do that. We don't touch party ID when it comes to waiting. So the partisan makeup is what it is. The reason you never wait on party ID is because party ID is pretty fluid. People wander between calling themselves Democrats, Republicans, and Independents to a certain degree. A certain proportion of people wander all the time, and so it's fluid. That's the reason for the numbers.
Now, your poll, Dr. Kidd, also found that Warner was running very strongly in Tidewater. Now, obviously, Northern Virginia, everybody knows that's going to be a blowout. But we were surprised to see his strength in Hampton Roads. Why is that? Well,
Hampton Roads has a substantial African-American population that votes pretty upper 90, plus 90s Democratic. Mark Warner's running strong in all regions, but he's got over a majority support in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads. He's right under 50%, 45% in Richmond area, 49% out southwest south side. He's running well in Hampton Roads. I mean, he's probably putting a lot of energy in Hampton Roads, I would imagine. Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads are the two vote-rich regions of the state. I think that's probably why he's doing as well as he is in this region.
And so he's done better than expected, Mark Warner has, in Southwest Virginia when he ran for both Senate and governor. He's worked really, really hard cultivating that vote block there. Republicans, I think, were hoping with the war on coal and energy and some of this EPA stuff that Warner would get blasted there. You haven't seen that either, though.
No, I think what's going on here, I understand that people want to impose a national strategic lens on Virginia and on the Senate race and say the fundamentals that are going on nationally are going to also work in Virginia. I just think this is a different case. Mark Warner left office as governor, one of the most popular governors ever, and he remains very popular. And I think Mark Warner's challenge in running for re-election was to go around the state and remind people about why they liked him. I don't think he had to do much. He didn't have to defend much. And Ed Gillespie's challenge was to introduce himself, and to critique Mark Warner. So Mark Warner has one challenge, and Ed Gillespie has two big challenges, and I think those are the fundamentals of this race. And so Mark Warner's doing okay in Southwest Virginia because he built up a very strong following in Southwest Virginia when he ran for governor, and that following hasn't necessarily abandoned him.
Still holding. Okay, we're out of time. We want to thank Dr. Quentin Kidd, Vice Provost and Director of the Judy Ford Wasson Center for Public Policy. Christopher Newport University, new poll just came out today. Warner 53, Gillespie 31, heading to a blowout. Thanks, sir. Always good to have you.